So I want to take a moment to just quickly summarize everything that we talked about today, starting with energy roles. There are three energy roles: producers, consumers, and decomposers. Producers are where most of the energy for an ecosystem is located. They make their own food. It's also the largest population in an ecosystem. Second, we have consumers, which can fall into the category of omnivore, herbivore, or carnivore. And lastly, we have decomposers, which are going to break down waste and dead organisms, and they can involve themselves in any level of a food chain. Question from Pear Deck: what is the energy role of a honeybee? Answer you should have gotten would be that honeybees are consumers because they have to consume pollen from the flowers in order to make honey for their hive. They can't directly make the honey without any external source. Food chains are a simple look at energy transfer in an ecosystem from one organism to another. If you start at the producer level, the primary consumer is what's going to eat the producer, then the secondary consumer is going to consume the primary consumer, and then the tertiary consumer will consume the secondary consumer, and so on and so forth. And each of these levels can also be called a trophic level. We have trophic level 1 with producers, where the bulk of the energy is stored, and then trophic level 2, 3, and 4. Something that is often forgotten when we look at food chains is the fact that a decomposer can involve themselves in any level of the food chain. So at any point, a plant could die, a primary consumer could die, a secondary or tertiary consumer could die as well, and at that point, a decomposer would take over and harvest that organism and return raw materials to the earth. Food webs are a more realistic look at what's going on as far as energy flow in an ecosystem. So they show multiple interactions between organisms because organisms don't just eat one thing. They usually have multiple sources of energy, and that's why the food web is a more realistic look at the ecosystem. So the main difference between a food chain and a food web is that a food chain is going to show just one interaction between one organism to the next, and it shows very simply the movement from one trophic level to the next, whereas a food web is going to show all the possible energy paths, not just one, for a ecosystem. So the Pear Deck question was, what is the main difference between a food web and a food chain? And you should be able to recognize that a food web is multiple energy pathways, or all of the energy pathways for an ecosystem, and a food chain is just a single pathway of energy for an ecosystem. It's not a complete look. Energy pyramid. So the reason that we have the pyramid shape is because our base is our largest store of energy, which would be producers, and then gradually we decrease the amount of energy as we move to the top of the food pyramid. So we have a large amount of energy at the bottom, a large population at the bottom, and then population slowly decreases as we move up the food pyramid. It wouldn't make sense if tertiary consumers were as prevalent as blades of grass. So that's why we have the energy pyramid to show that organization. The rule of 10 states that only 10% of the energy at one level will move to the next level. So it would require 1,000 calories of producer energy to make just 1 calorie of energy available at the tertiary consumer level. And we do measure energy in kilocalories. So looking at this is just a different way to look at the rule of 10. So 1,000 freshwater shrimp will support 1,000 bleak, and then that will support 100 perch, and that supports 10 northern pike which would then support one osprey. So in order to have one osprey, which is a bird that feeds on fish, you would need to have 10,000 freshwater shrimp in that ecosystem. Looking at energy loss, so why does the rule of 10 exist? Why is only 10% of energy being transferred from one level to the next? And the main source of energy loss is due to heat loss. So when organisms are just going about their day, they are releasing heat as they produce their bodily functions, and that's a reason why we don't have as much energy carry over from level to level. Okay, so the last part of this lesson is to complete the ecosystem's gizmos, and to do this you'll use the link provided by your teacher. You will complete the gizmo from start to finish. Until you see this "you have completed the ecosystem case" screen, you have not finished. So make sure you get to that final